A very good evening, and thanks for clicking on to the later edition of Vogan's European Outlook for Thursday, the 15th of December. We've reached the middle portion of the month, and we do have milder conditions moving in over the course of this weekend. And of course, with after a prolonged 10-day period of below normal temperatures peaked this morning, minus 12, minus 13 in the south of England. By far the coldest night of this cold spell so far for England and Wales, as temperatures dropped to as low as minus 12 at Sennybridge. But it has been an impressive period of cold for the UK when you combine the entire UK wide region and, of course, the longevity of these days at or slightly below freezing, very cold temperatures by night time, that northerly wind during the first half of the cold spell eased off, high pressure settled in over top of that area of of snow cover. Temperatures at Braemar, of course, dropped to minus 17.3. They never rose above minus 9.3 during the daytime. Coldest temperatures in the UK for the month of December, at least, in quite some time. And then, of course, this morning, under the clear skies, we returned those northerly winds. So it was actually quite a miserable day and has been a miserable period for the last, 48 hours across the northern half of the UK. Heavy, frequent rain, sleet, snow showers. I was delivering to Tesco at 10 this morning. It was actually quite a messy picture. Freezing rain. We had sheets of black ice. I do know my partner Lindsay was leaving the house this morning, and she said it was a nightmare. It was a skating rink. It was very hard to stay on your feet basically because it had rained overnight. As the air mass, of course, warmed up, the super cold ground meant that moisture just froze instantly on an impact on the ground. So the end game to these cold spells can be very, very messy, but also can be very dangerous as well, because that is when you start to get the slip, and the slip risk becomes much greater once you start to warm things up, because you almost forget sometimes as the air mass warms that the ground is still so cold. Ice becomes a major problem, and I think that is going to be an issue, as well as a transient band of snow that moves through during the course of particularly Sunday this upcoming weekend. But the question remains: what happens through the course of next week? And I'll explain to you my hunch feeling when it comes to the week of Christmas, what the weather may be. I'm kind of leaning a wee bit more towards unsettled, with a kind of polar maritime influence on our weather here, a bit of a kind of up and down kind of scenario. But looking at the origins of where this cold spell came from initially, I strongly believe that the Mann-Julian oscillation played a major role in what happened during the month of September, the uptick in the late season tropical development, the Mann-Julian oscillation rotating through phases 7, 8 into 1, that enhanced the high latitude blocking pattern. It basically set up the cold period that we've just had and will continue to remain in, actually. But because it's now entering phases 2, 3, 4, this is becoming less favourable phases for a cold pattern. The problem that you've got is that it's an accumulative effect. The build-up of high latitude blocking has been very significant this month, and even though the pattern becomes less favourable for cold weather and a cold pattern, you don't. It's not a simple flicking of a switch, and we're out of a cold pattern. You've got residual effects that can linger on, and I think that is what's going to take place. We're going to start to see changes taking place over North America, and that, I believe, is the hallmarks to the change that we see over western portions of Europe. Up until now, cold has been focused over western North America. We've had a strong block over Greenland, bang slap over Greenland. Now we're starting to see some changes taking place That means that the bitterly cold air that's been over western portions of North America is going to shift east. We're going to increase the thermal gradient over eastern North America. That in turn is going to lead to a stronger jet stream. That was, of course, explained in yesterday's video. And then I think what we're going to start to see, and we will start to see this as early as tomorrow, is more influence of the Atlantic Ocean. And during Saturday, we'll start to see the initial changes starting to take place. The temperature will start to creep up. And then on Sunday, we see the main boundary coming through with rain, sleet, significant snow, albeit a transient nature, especially across England, Wales, probably southern Scotland as well. Far north of Scotland, it's debatable how much that cold air lingers, but this kind of step down process in terms of the cold introducing more milder conditions, sometimes it can be rapid, sometimes it can be slow. I think this could be a fairly rapid transition to milder, because what happens is you have to look at the depth of the atmosphere, the cold column. So if you take a slice of the atmosphere through the vertical column, and of course with milder air running through, sometimes the strong cold forces that milder air to move in, up and over. Now, how deep that column of cold air is through the lowest, say, mile, half a mile of the atmosphere can be critical as to what you see falling out of the sky. And of course, when you've got milder conditions, a little bit, if the cold is more dominant than the mild and it's forcing the milder further higher up in the atmosphere, what happens is you can have rain. Then, as it moves down through the column, that rain changes back over to snow. If the column of cold air at the surface is less deep, then the rain never gets a chance to transition to snow. Therefore, the rain falls as rain, liquid. But of course, you could still have temperatures at 0 or +1 Celsius. At the surface, feels as if it should be cold enough for snow, but actually, the column of warm air aloft is actually deeper than perhaps perceived. So these are the complicated factors when it comes to milder conditions running into cold air masses, and that is going to be the reason that makes it more complicated to forecast. I think the cold column is deeper the further north in England you go and across Scotland. So therefore, I think we'll look at the charts in just a second. But this is the GFS ensemble, and we will skip through the sequence here and show you what's going to take place here. So if I can try and get the map slightly smaller, so you can get the bigger view, and you can see here what's going on. So we've got, of course, the big Greenland block. We've got a block in high over the Hudson Bay area. We've got the big trough over Europe, of course. But what we're going to start to see is, as we start to see this trough over North America sweep east, we're going to enhance the jet stream, and we're going to have more influence of the Atlantic underneath this area of high pressure into the British Isles here. But again, nothing is clear cut. And the reason why we're going to start to see the changes is the fact that the Managelian Oscillation has entered a different phase. So we've started to shift the areas of convection and sinking over the tropical Pacific into the Indian Ocean. That has influence on the atmosphere within the high latitude region here. So as we play it through the loop here, what we're going to start to see is these areas of low pressure becoming a little bit more potent at 500 millibars. The focus of that block is going to shift more towards the North America side. It already has done. And you can see here, as we see the trough over North America shift east, bitterly cold air, waves of polar air is going to sweep down into the United States here. Notice here that we start to see the buildup of pressure over Alaska. That is going to open the floodgates to Arctic air into the United States, as in turn it's going to start to deepen areas of low pressure as the Atlantic jet stream becomes stronger, and therefore the Atlantic door starts to open up. You notice here that we've lost the blocking over the northeast Atlantic here. The focus of the ridge now is centered over North America almost, and this is where we start to see much more influence of the Atlantic Ocean here. So I'm trying to show you the breakdown of this cold pattern from a hemispheric view, rather than just showing you the Atlantic or Europe trying to show you why we're seeing this changeover. And the big question that I'm fighting with at the moment, folks, is how much of an influence do we then see of milder conditions, more Atlantic driven weather? I believe that we are going to start to transition to a more dominant Atlantic pattern. That doesn't mean, however, that we can't get northwesterly winds, even snowfall, even cold weather. You can have an Atlantic pattern and still have cold weather. Remember, the amount of cold air that is now in place over Europe, now over North America, shifting eastwards. There is a lot of cold air to tap, so the reservoir is bigger based on the pattern that we've had, and therefore there is a lot of cold air in the pattern to tap into. So that also needs to get taken into consideration. But you notice here these areas of low pressure running underneath that blocking area of high pressure into the UK. Notice the ridge now starting to show up over central and eastern portions of Europe. So we are starting to see this changeover taking place, and this is quite interesting. But do you notice here that as we start to push towards the Christmas Day period, so this is Sunday next week, 25th, Christmas Day, we're now starting to see a ridge of high pressure go from the central Atlantic up towards Greenland, and we've got the trough kind of then leaning over towards the east here. Nothing is simple, and this is a very, very complex transition period that we're in at the moment, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly what is taking place. Notice here, by the time we reach Boxing Day, we're almost kind of slightly back to where we are, albeit not as strong. Ridge of high pressure over the North Atlantic, ridge over Greenland. We've got the trough over the eastern half of the United States, as you can see here. But notice that we've already shut the Atlantic down. This is, of course, 1 day increments here. It isn't a 5 day period, as you can see. But it's going to be a bumpy road. I think we're going to see a back and forward type pattern with this transition at the moment here. So, but it's all very interesting stuff, of course. Let's have a look at the UK view here for the next several days, because we've got a lot of weather, of course, to speak about. We had a fresh surge of cold air coming down from the north over the last 24 hours, albeit it was still raining down near sea level. So there was a mix of warmer air within the middle altitudes of the atmosphere, despite the fact that we had cold air coming down. This fresh injection of northerly winds. As we play through over the next few days, what we're going to see is we're going to have a little bit Atlantic influence, winds become a little bit more westerly, transporting some milder air from the west into the UK. During the day on Saturday, we're going to have a rain, sleet, and snow mixture with those westerly winds. It will feel raw, it will feel miserable, but there is milder air starting to kind of filter in from the west. Notice here as we push towards the Saturday time frame, we kind of open up the isobars, clear skies, light winds. We're going to see another frost potential. Notice here that we're flirting with more cold air to the north, but at the same time that we're seeing cold air coming into the northwest, we're starting to see the first of the mild conditions moving in. And as we press through the day on Sunday, starting off perhaps chilly, by the end of the day, we could see temperatures 9, 10, 11 Celsius. Late Sunday evening and through the overnight period, we could have a much milder air mass indeed. GFS indicates that we have this milder sweep right across the UK. We see initial snowfall, then it changes over to rain, and bang, we're in the milder conditions. Then we have this push of milder air, or colder air, should I say, on the back side here. Looking at the ECMWF, because I'm running out of time as per usual. Friday, we've got that milder conditions moving in, as you can see. Bear in mind, there could be some significant snow through the central belt during the course of tomorrow. Same as the GFS, we've got that flirt with milder air or colder air to the north. Here comes the mild surge, pushing all the way up through the country, as you can see here. 850 temperatures as high as 78 degrees, so very mild indeed. And then we're back into the slightly colder air, but it's like backside of low pressure cold as opposed to anything that we've seen in recent times. Unfortunately, I've run out of time once again, but we'll continue to look at this scenario as we go forward. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel.